Welcome back to the Black Belter podcast. You're listening to episode 6. A couple of things before we start. Thanks a million to everyone who continues to share the podcast across all social media. It really makes a difference. As well, thanks for a million to anybody who signed up to the Patreon page. The support is greatly appreciated, and anyone who hasn't signed up yet and would like to do so, you can find a link on the Facebook page or on the website, theblackbelter.com. So today I'm joined by Caradh Donovan. Caradh is a multi-sport athlete competing at the highest level in both karate and kickboxing. Caradh has collected many world and European titles. She's also hoping to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics in 2020, and today I chat to her about her journey to this point and our goals going forward. So what's up, Caradh?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
So we were just talking, you have a bit of an injury at the moment.
Yeah, I woke up, nothing too exciting. I woke up last weekend and just had a bit of pain in my ankle. So by the following day, so by Sunday, I couldn't walk, and I knew then I was going to have to go and get it checked out. So I have a stress fracture in my ankle. So something that'll probably keep me out for about, I'm hoping no more than 4 weeks, but it could be a little bit longer. But hopefully I'll be back like in the next month or so.
And is there any bit of training you can do at the moment, or are you completely out?
Well, since I only got this boot on at the last weekend, so since that I haven't done anything, but I am going to start going back into the gym and doing some upper body weights, and then hopefully when the pain goes down a bit, I might even get into the pool and start doing some swimming, just to kind of keep active as well, so I'm not going to make it so hard then when I get back into training properly, like next month or whatever.
Well, you had a bit of a rough time with injuries. Didn't you have to pull out of the last competition?
Yeah,
with an injury
so
as well?
I've actually had 3 in a row. So in January, I had a proper, like a really tough injury on my, I think it's abductor or adductor, just the inside of my leg. So I wasn't able to kick for about 2 months. And then that kind of started to ease off, and then we went to the European Championships, and about a minute into the first fight, I was pulled out of the fight by the doctor with just an arm injury. It wasn't broken, but at the time I felt very, very sore. So that was the second one, and a couple of weeks home I thought everything was going good again, and then I just wake up with this. So I'm hoping that's it. That's my lot. And could you have carried on at the last one, or was it like, could you have carried on and it was just the doctor being sometimes the way? It was very painful at the time. I thought and there was quite a noise off it, so I think that kind of caused a little bit of a scare. Kind of looking back, it didn't look as bad. So I'm used to kind of seeing massive swelling and bruising, and it didn't look like that. It was a little bit bruised, but nothing too bad. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm questioning myself, how bad was it? But at the same time, it was really painful. Like, so probably if I'm being realistic, I couldn't have. So you kind of have to go with their decision, though.
Didn't need a cast or anything, though, did it?
No. Didn't need
just
any.
Rest.
Just rest, and it wasn't. Ultimately, it wasn't that bad. But that's, I guess, I don't know if taekwondo is the same, but you don't really get to question those decisions. So if the doctor pulls you out,
the doctor's decision all the time.
Yeah,
they say you can't go on, that's it.
So you kind of have to trust their expertise as well, but sometimes it's frustrating. But at the same time, I've been pretty lucky. Like, I haven't had an awful lot of injuries over like 20 odd years of competing, so I can't complain too much. They just seem to all have come at once this year. Yeah.
So actually, how did you get into martial arts, into kickboxing originally?
So it was a bit random. I wanted to play football, so this gone back 23 years ago now, or a little bit more. So yeah, I wanted to play football, and they just wouldn't let me play in the local club. There wasn't really a girls team or girls set up at the time. So I decided, well, sure, look, I'll try out the local kickboxing club, because there wasn't a huge amount of sport in Sligo, because that's where I grew up. And once I had my first session, there was no stopping me. I just fell in love with it straight away. And all I wanted to do was just train at every chance I got. So yeah.
And is that a points kickboxing club up in Sligo, or is it continuous, or?
It's a bit of both. So I think traditionally it's a continuous kickboxing club, but what used to happen, I don't know if this is still the way it is now, but as when you're starting as a kid, everybody did point fighting to start, and then as you got a bit older, you might, if you wanted, you could go into the kind of light contact, continuous or full contact kickboxing. I think I dabbled with light contact at one point, like the continuous style, and it just didn't suit me. So I just stayed with point fighting the whole way through. I never had really any interest in switching over. So yeah.
They're only just starting to bring in the other continuous, I think, aren't they? For like those, like the younger ages, it is a lot of points that they do.
Yeah. So definitely when I started, there was no international competition for underage continuous kickboxing. And I think now that's starting to come in. I don't even know if it's at every single age category now, but maybe it has. Cause
they've added a few, I think.
They've added a few.
The Irish Open recently. And
yeah, so that's good.
Was that... is that Des Leonard's club?
But Des would have been part of it. So it was a guy called Michael McDermott, who's the kind of head of Magendo, was the style. And we all trained in one group kind of when I started. Actually, Des Leonard was based over in America at the time, so he came back, and then eventually he set up his own club that's in Sligo, but part of the same kind of group. So yeah, we would have all trained together.
Yeah, you won the Irish Open a couple of times, didn't you? Like, how many times did you have won the Irish Open?
Yeah, good question. So I've won it both through the team event and in the individual black belt divisions. I'm not exactly sure how many of those I have, but I was in quite a few finals in a row. So between the team events and the kind of the individuals, I might have had 5 or 6. But I'm not too sure. I must go back and just count them up, because I did my first senior Irish Open final in 2002, and I did my last one in 2017. So over 15 years, I'd have to go back. And then I used to do a couple of weight categories as well. So they allowed that in kickboxing. They allow you to do, your own weight category and then move up one as well. It's a good question. I must go back and have a look. But it's definitely one of my kind of most successful World Cups. Whether it's just because it's at home or just the atmosphere, I don't know what it was, but yeah, I've had some good memories there. Do
you find that nearly been a bigger achievement to win the Irish Open, because it's maybe as opposed to a Worlds, because like it's so big?
Yeah,
like, it's probably is the biggest martial arts competition in the world. So
yeah, definitely. If like for myself personally, it means a lot more to me to win an Irish Open than it does to win a World Championships or European Championships. That's just on a kind of personal level, and I think most people that would be involved in the sport would kind of understand the reasons behind that, because the numbers that take part in it is so huge, and not only do you have the best person from every country, you have probably the best 5 or 6 from every country per weight category. So you have multiple like high quality athletes, whereas they're like, so if you take the Italians or the Hungarians, you're only going to have one of those each in your World Championships. But then at the same time, so anyone that doesn't necessarily know the sport, they'll hear Irish Open or whatever, and they won't really bat an eyelid. They'll think it's a national championship, which is still a good thing to win. So sometimes then you kind of have to go back to, some of the world championships that wouldn't have been near as difficult or challenging to win, but they mean more to people outside of the sport. So but for me personally, they're the ones that I definitely remember as the kind of the biggest challenging events, and that mean the most to me for sure. Yeah,
talking to a lot of the guys, the ones who do taekwondo and kickboxing, winning the Irish Open does definitely mean more. Just like you said, because it's so much bigger and harder to win, but like you said, it doesn't ring as nice to say, this many times world champion. So,
exactly.
It just doesn't sound as good.
It definitely doesn't sound as good. But I think, if you were to, when you speak to people that know the sport and you say you've won the Irish Open, you straight away, people know that you're good or you're decent at it. Whereas sometimes though, and even within sport, sometimes you say, I've won a world championships, and there's also like people then just kind of question, well, which world championships was that? So within the sport, people kind of know, if you win something, that makes you kind of a good fighter. But then outside of it, it's very different. But at the same time, like I have good memories from every different association I've competed in as well. Like I wouldn't want to knock any other title at the same time,
Yeah, that's been, when you say a WACO world title, that means different to maybe a different association,
and I've great respect for people that have won all of them, but I'd probably be of the opinion that maybe not every year, but there's been certain kind of WACO World Championships or European Championships, and when people win those, that they've fought some of the best people in the sport. So but at the same time, like there is other, like some of the WKC World Championships have phenomenal athletes in it, and you've seen some wacko world champions lose early stages and they might not win those, so it's kind of hard to know which is the best, you know. And of course there's a bit of bias as well, so when you're in one association you always think it's the best, don't you?
Yeah, I think you do. So then what prompted the change then from kickboxing, having so much success, to switch to karate?
So I started training just as something different. I wanted to do a different, like I've always been interested in martial arts and I wanted to try different ones, and the plan was when I retired that I would go in and do maybe some totally different type of martial art. So I decided that I would just do a bit of training with this. At the same time, I knew that karate was going to the Olympics in 2020, so that was in the back of my mind. But I didn't want to make it like this big jump in decision and say, yeah, that's it, I'm switching over, and then realise 3 months later that I don't like the sport, or this isn't for me, or it doesn't suit me, whatever the reason might be. So I started really just as something different, take my mind off, because I was finding kickboxing quite stressful, and I was coming to a stage where I was losing motivation. I was kind of thinking, well, what else do I want to get out of this? Am I just repeating the same thing every year? And I didn't really have the same level of enjoyment in it. So then after about 3 or 4 months or maybe a little bit longer, about 6 months in karate, I knew at that point in my mind that this was going to be something I was going to take on seriously. And then I decided, look, I'm just going to go for this Olympics thing, because I'm getting older. Kickboxing's getting, not any closer to the Olympics. It certainly won't be in it, I think, in my kind of time as an athlete. So so that was kind of that's the big kind of push behind completely focused on karate now for the next for the last couple of years and for the next few years as well.
Yeah, that'd definitely be an experience to go to an Olympics.
Yeah,
it's the one thing that a lot of us taekwondo people don't have the chance really, unless we switch over to the World Taekwondo Federation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you probably know yourself, because you've won at every level of your sport, so you kind of think, well, what's left? You'd love that Olympic medal. That'd be the last one that you'd kind of add to it. That means something, and like it might never happen. Some people think that I'm insane, that I'm going to switch over and do some, win something in a couple of years. But I think you can't have regrets. You have to just go for these things if that's what you want. And it's not for everybody, but that's just something I've decided. And I love the sport. It's quite similar to point fighting. I dabbled for a little bit in the WTF Taekwondo. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The other Olympic style.
I think they've shortened it down. They've got rid of the F
okay.
for the connotations.
Okay,
but I think it's just WT now. But
yeah.
So
I tried at a time where I was getting quite sick, so it didn't work out from that point of view, but it wouldn't have been something, the style of it just didn't probably suit me either. So I know that the fact that I love the sport has made it easier for me to switch over.
Yeah, like that, the fact that they are very similar means you can compete at a high level in karate at such a short space of time of actually being involved specifically in that sport. Yeah,
that's the plan anyway. So we see how it goes. But
there's a lot of other drama going on with kickboxing, karate at the moment.
Yeah,
isn't there? I'm seeing a lot of stuff on social media just where, the athletes being blocked from competing in tournaments, coaches being blocked.
Yeah.
It's a little bit interesting from my point of view. I don't know the whole ins and outs in it, but do you wanna?
Yeah, I'll do my best to explain it. So.
There's two associations now, isn't there? Both kind of under the same name, or
sort of. There's two groups within an association. So when I started this sport and had all dreams about Olympics, I didn't anticipate this roadblock. So this has probably put me back a few steps. But what happened was, last year, around this time, maybe May or June of last year, there was a bit of a split within the governing body for the sport. So they had a dispute at board level. And ultimately, that meant the president was ousted from his position. And he didn't accept that, so he went and formed a breakaway group within it. So now what happened was there was two groups claiming to be the governing body for the sport. And one of them managed to hold on to the mandate for the World Federation, which meant they have control over who competes for Ireland. And the other group, which is always been the governing body, are still recognised by Sport Ireland and the Olympic Federation of Ireland. So that what that meant for us is that those of us that were loyal to the the main coaches and the proper governing body were told you're not good enough now to compete, or you're going to be blocked, even though we were probably performing and every bit as good, or if not better, than the athletes that were being selected. So we kind of then went to social media, and some of the national media picked up on it and supported us. So we did an online petition to try and get back into competition. But ultimately, it's like athletes just being used as pawns to try and get political advantage over one side. So hopefully, it's still not resolved. It's still going on. But hopefully in the next kind of few weeks that'll kind of sort itself out. Or there is a legal kind of dispute going on in the background. So if I think it's going to arbitration in the next few weeks, but if that doesn't work, it's going to go all the way to the European Courts of Arbitration, which probably takes time. And that was the one thing the athletes were a bit worried about, was this could take years to resolve. And if we have to wait for another year, like the Olympics, it's 100% over for us. So as long as we can compete while this is going on, then I suppose that's like a little mini victory, I guess.
Yeah, but wasn't there even... coaches were blocked?
Yeah, we went to the World Championships, and both our coaches, all three national coaches. So the women's squad have two coaches, and the men's squad have their head coach as well, and all three of them were blocked from going, and we were ultimately blocked up to a point, and then they said they'd allow us compete. So what happened was, for me, I got a coach in my chair who had never coached at that level before. I'd never met until about 2 minutes before I fought, maybe a couple hours. It was crazy. And it's even weird. It's weirder because in Caradh they do video replay, so you're allowed to put up a card if you think the judges have missed a point. But as an athlete, you're not allowed signal to think, to say to your coach, put up the card, I've scored, or if you do signal and you're caught doing it, you'll get a warning. So you need a coach that knows what they're doing and that knows kind of your style and that's paying attention. And I probably sound like an absolute sore loser here, and that was some of the comments I got trolled with online, is because like I was fighting a girl from Jordan. I was winning the fight for the whole match bar the last 10 seconds, and then there was a clash, and her coach used her card and got her 2 points, which basically meant she was ahead of me, but I scored at the same time. And had the coach that was coaching me use the card, I probably would have won. And that girl went on through a few rounds, and so it's just frustrating. So the coaches were all blocked, and that's kind of still the scenario. But we did get a coach for the European Championship, so the World Federation have really kind of taken a few steps to kind of support us a little bit more, which is good, because we weren't really sure where they stood on the whole scenario. But it's nice to see that they're not blocking athletes, and they're going to make sure that we can at least try to get to the Olympics without getting involved in the whole political side of it. Yeah,
so all you want to do is compete. You don't really want the extra stress of that kind of stuff that's kind of out of your control. You don't,
like in an ideal scenario, you don't want to be dealing with that. I know we did have the option to switch sides, and we probably would have been rewarded for that, so we would have been able to compete. So from that point of view, some people said to me, why don't you just go over and join the other side and just focus on competing? That would be just like selling my soul for me. So as much as I'm saying I don't want all the politics and I want to compete, I also want to do it with a little bit of I don't want to say integrity, because I don't want to say anyone else that does switch over it doesn't have it, but I think everyone has different values and different beliefs about what they think is right. So it was important to me that I kind of stuck by those as well as try to compete. So that's probably why we caused such a fuss over it, rather than just do what we're told and join the other group.
And does the other group have many athletes that could potentially compete, or have many people potentially switched over? Or
so I don't really think anyone switched over. So what happened was, some clubs that were on the other side of the argument, they were kind of already there, so their athletes were in an equally difficult position. So they were told that they have to go here, and we were on the other side. But in fairness, it hasn't been much of a rift between the athletes, even though there's, I think, 3 of the athletes are from the other group, but the majority of the squad will be in the Caradh Ireland, the main group, and same with the juniors. So they don't have an awful lot of athletes, and I don't think maybe I'm kind of jumping overstepping here, but I don't really think they're too bothered about the quality or amount of athletes they have. I think their main focus now is just controlling and keeping power. I could be wrong, so I mean that's just my opinion on it. So, but yeah, they don't have as many athletes, but that could change. You know, that's just the way it is at the minute.
Yeah. And you haven't actually been blocked from competing, have you? Like
well, only because
they've threatened it a couple of times, but have you actually been stopped?
There was just one competition where they didn't, directly threaten me, but I didn't want to spend the money. So what happened was in August, September of last year, this is when it first kind of came up to me. I had booked a trip to go to Chile and I'd everything paid for it, done a lot of fundraising for it. So it was going to cost, it was costing thousands to go there, and I was going on my own. And I got a call about 3 or 4 days before I was due to fly out to say under no circumstances would I be allowed to compete. So that was the first direct attempt to try and stop me, and eventually then that nothing kind of happened with that, and I was allowed to go away and compete. But I didn't want to take that chance again. So every competition that came up, we were threatened. And then there was another one in Shanghai. So I thought, well, this is going to cost a lot more money. I don't want to put all this money and then realise I get over there and say you're not allowed to compete. So in that way, it has impacted me, and I've lost ranking points for that. But no, we haven't actually been blocked, because every time they try to block us, somebody steps in. So the World Federation steps in, or we've had help from a group called Global Athlete, which is a new kind of athlete movement, I guess, that's trying to support athlete welfare and just basic human rights for athletes, like to be allowed to participate. So we weren't blocked, but it's not ideal preparation. So every time, I mean, you probably get this, when you're going to a competition, you need the couple of months up to it just to focus on training. Whereas we were training, but we still didn't know until we actually got off the plane whether we were going to compete. So it's not ideal preparation at all.
That's nuts.
It's all crazy. Gone on in your head. It is. It's nuts. That's the only word for it. So you couldn't make it up.
How are you supposed to prepare when you don't even know if you're actually going to get to step on the mats?
Yeah,
I mean?
That's it. Yeah.
To fully commit to training when you're kind of going, I could get out here and just be told, no.
Yeah.
Not allowed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's crazy. And then to get your head right as well, you're so preoccupied with trying to get through all the hoops and obstacles that they're putting in front of you, and then when you don't perform, they're straight away on social media
jumping
laughing at you, and saying you're rubbish, and we knew they weren't good enough to go. And I got injured over in the Europeans, and I wasn't allowed to compete, and one of their coaches just ridiculed me, didn't even care the fact that it was out of my control that I got injured, laughed at me saying that I didn't score a point, I got beaten first round. Okay, I did get beaten first round technically if you want to go and look at it on paper, but it wasn't, that wasn't really accurate, and they're just not very nice people, to be honest. As mild as I can put it.
Yeah, there was a time even in Taekwondo where it was split between two associations, and one association had sole control the National Association had sole control of the national team, and there was some political stuff, but thankfully in our favour across a lot of time it managed now that we've been awarded the National Association.
Okay, and I didn't realise that.
Yeah, we have it a good while now, but there was a good long period of time where we had the same obstacles and where we probably had the better people, just couldn't compete on the national team. So it's not good.
Yeah, it's mad. And it seems to be everywhere. The more I kind of see this affect me personally, the more you just see it show up in so many different sports that you wouldn't have been aware of. Now you're saying it happened at one point in Taekwondo. It's happened in so many sports. Not exactly the same scenario, but there just seems to be people are just preoccupied with having power, and athletes just seem to be bottom of the list, which is so dysfunctional. It should be, you don't have a sport without athletes. So they should be involved in decision making, and they should just be put to the fore of what the sport's about. But it doesn't it doesn't really seem to be that way. It just seems to be people just fighting over ridiculous stuff that a 2-year-old wouldn't be bothered.
You don't want politics to be getting involved in sport. You want it to just be the athletes competing. Keep it pure, would be ideal, but people just get caught up in, like you said, looking for a bit of power.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to feel important more so than actually being important, You mentioned already Caradh doesn't get any funding, does it?
No, and it's even got less
Yeah.
funding since this all happened. So they get no high performance funding. So even if they were to get funding tomorrow, if it's all related to the running of the organisation and not high performance, it means that athletes don't really see any of that directly. But they used to get €6,000 a year to just run the kind of main functions, like for administration or whatever, like just basic costs. But that was stopped last year. Or basically it was stopped for this year, so they would apply for funding in kind of October time, but they weren't allowed to apply for funding last year. So it means that it's running on empty now, or kind of on membership fees really. But hopefully that will change. It would be nice if it is possible to be successful in sport without funding, because in kickboxing we never got funded. I don't know if you're the same in taekwondo.
Yeah, no funding at all.
Probably
Fundraising yourself is
so
what you have to rely on.
Yeah, exactly. So you can definitely be successful, but it makes it even more difficult. So it just puts extra stress onto fighters, onto athletes, and just think of what you could win if you had that support. So I think taekwondo is probably one of the most successful sports in Ireland.
It would be up there like that in kickboxing, I think.
Yeah,
we are quite successful in them, but it just kind of goes a bit under the radar because they're minority sports.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I think in general we seem to be good at combat sports in Ireland, but for some reason there's only one sport really getting. I think taekwondo is getting a little bit of support now. Not your taekwondo, the other taekwondo. But even at that, I think they've one athlete or a senior level that is being funded. And there's probably huge potential in the sport. There's probably loads of really good fighters there. So, I don't understand why they're a little bit resistant to sport. As maybe they just want to kind of continue down the same pattern, and so it's frustrating. I mean, you probably understand that it's really frustrating.
Like when you're saying that the FAI were getting 2.4 million, it's like, and they've much more potential for to make money commercially than our sports. It's like we could do with a little percentage of that.
Yeah, even just
here.
A small slice of the pie wouldn't go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we're not looking for it all, just a little bit.
Yeah, and it would make such a massive difference. I mean, if you were to take even 100,000 off that, that's not going to make a massive impact. They'd be able to probably make that up through, as you say, commercial partnerships that they've already got in place anyway. But I think it's not even about taking away money from someone else. It's when you see the mismanagement of it. That's what's really frustrating. To invest a small amount into minority sport would stretch so far, and you see somebody's rent being paid for $3,000 a month. You just think, oh my God, how many trips would that fund for a smaller sport, or how much good could that go to? Now, and it's not for me to tell an organisation how to spend their money, but it just doesn't seem like a good use of taxpayers' money to be paying those kind of expenses.
And like you said as well, you lose motivation, I think, and I think especially when you've been successful and you've won a couple of titles, and then it's just costing you money at that point as well, and you're kind of going, well, does it mean as much to me, and do I want to spend that money to just have the same feeling again? I think then there's been a drop off, I think, in some of the taekwondo team, and even I think talking to some of the people from kickboxing, there's been a drop off there.
Absolutely.
To where just motivation and the feeling of it, the sense of achievement diminishes, and it's just costing you money because you don't have the funding. Whereas I think if you had something that was helping you out and it wasn't costing you money to go, then you'd probably stick at it a bit more. You'd have a better chance of sticking at it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think most everything I earn goes on sports, so you don't live so I don't think people get that. A lot of people say to me in different sports, oh well, we're not funded, but yet they've never put their hand in the pocket to pay for a flight, to pay for a tracksuit, to pay for a squad training session. They think not funding means you don't get a salary. So not only do a lot of people get funding, and I don't begrudge anyone that funding. I think that's the way it should be for anyone that performs. I think they're absolutely entitled to it, but I sometimes think people don't understand when we say no funding that this is what it means. It means that you have to work every single day or fundraise to try and not only pay your rent, pay your bills, but also to represent your country. And there's only so long you can do that before you realise that life gets in the way, and like eventually you're just going to have to start, like, you know, paying other bills or whatever, and then the motivation does start to kind of drop off. So like you have to be really passionate and really dedicated to do well in a sport that gets no funding, because, and especially over a long period of time, because you're not getting anything financial out of it. All you're getting is something that, you know, pure joy and like just passion for the sport, and just a sense of accomplishment in something that you're achieving. You don't get anything like financial out of it. It's not like you're going to be set up for life making millions or anything like that. And you're basically like, I don't know if everyone's the same, but like I have to live in Dublin to train because the squad is in Dublin, and to pay rent here is crazy. So you're like you're talking about, like, you know, you can't do anything. You can't really have a life outside of it unless, you know, you work really hard, and the more you work, the less you can train. So it's kind of trying to get the balance between the two.
I think as well there's a misconception there that because it's an Olympic sport that, oh, you must be getting funded.
Yeah.
Like, well, only even the sport might be getting funded, but you need to be at the top of the sport. You need to actually look like you could be getting to the Olympics to get funding. Just because the sport is there doesn't necessarily mean they're going to fund you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very hard for new sports to get onto the funding program. And like based on the new sports plan that they've out, less sports are going to get a look in at that. They're going to cut sports off the high performance funding plan and just focus all their resources on kind of a fewer sports. So even if you become an Olympic sport in the next couple of years, a very slim chance of getting Olympic funding. And a lot of people think, oh, once we get in the Olympics, we're sorted. That's just not the case. You have to, and even if you perform, like we've had a youth Olympic medal in Caradh now. That's obviously nothing to do with me, but it still doesn't guarantee any funding. So even if you have success at youth level in an Olympic sport, that's not enough. I think it would take winning the senior Olympics for them to like sit up and take notice, and by that stage you've already won, and you're just thinking, well, you know, I could have done with that funding 2 years ago. But if some of the seniors can pull that off, it probably will be good for the next generation coming through. So at least there's that. And
then, so how does the ranking points work then to qualify?
To qualify, yeah. So that's a bit of a stretch now at this point, especially now that I'm injured. I'm missing another event in the next couple of weeks. So what happens is from, I think it's last summer, they started the kind of ranking window.
Yeah.
But because I'm new to the sport, I'm missing out on 8 events a year because I'm not ranked high enough in the world ranking. So my first goal was to try and get up the world ranking. So I went from 420, I think, to 120 in the last 4 months. Sorry, so no, year and 4 months.
Yeah.
So from last year. So I've jumped up 300 places, but I have to get another 20 places to get into these ranking events. So my ranking is quite low, and what happens is by April of next year they're going to close off the ranking window, and whoever's in the top 4 of my weight category get to go to the Olympics. They'll qualify that way. So that is
just
a bit
4?
of a, yeah, it's only top 4. There's only 10 spots in the weight category. 4 of those go through ranking. If you're in a different weight category, it's only top 2. So that's why I picked 61 kilos to at least give myself a chance, because there is more places for that weight category, because they're going to merge the other two. So like if you're 50 or 55 kilos, they just merge it and it becomes one weight. So that's the ranking way to qualify, but you have to, it's very heavily stacked in favour of people who are already competing on the circuit for a long time, and it's cost it costs a lot of money. You have to keep travelling all over the globe to try and do it that way. So the real kind of focus for me is to try and be fit and ready to win the qualification tournament next year, and that is in, I think, April or May of next year in Paris. So hopefully there'll be no politics there, and I'll get selected to go, and then if I get top 3 in that, then I qualify. So that's the big target now. And just now I want to compete as well on the circuit, because you know yourself, the more you compete against these people, the better you get. So that's the plan.
And are all the tournaments, well, how often do the tournaments take place, the ranking events?
There's usually, nothing happens in July and August. That's a kind of a quiet time, but there's between 1 and 2 every month.
Oh, there's a lot, so
there's there's 8 Premier Leagues in the year, and there's 4 Series A, so that's 12, and then there's a European or a continental championship, and then last year a World Championship. So you have at least 13 tournaments a year, and there's 2 years in the qualification process. So
are they all weighted the same, or would you get more ranking points for World Championships versus?
Yeah, so the ones, this is what makes it again more in favour of the people that are already. So if you're new coming into this, it's very much against you. So World Championships, you get the most ranking points. Then for European Championships and the Premier League events, they're ranked at the same level. They're the next kind of one down. And then the Series A, which is has all the same people as the Premier Leagues, but they're just ranked lower, so they're a lower weighting for them. They're the only 3 you can get ranking points at, so they're all different levels.
Yeah. So that does make it even trickier then, doesn't it?
Yeah, So it's very hard to, so when you can't get into these Premier League events, it's very hard to up your ranking, because every time they compete, they're getting double the ranking points than you can get at the Series A, but you've only got 4 tournaments in the year to go to those. So you have to go out and win one of those to get into to get your ranking up high enough to almost get into the higher ranked tournaments. And then you have people in the higher ranked tournaments that never win fights. They just keep competing at them, and their ranking stays high. So it's really frustrating. You just think,
so it does really support the people who are consistently and have been consistently competing.
Yeah, and who don't have to be that good. They just have to compete and have the money to do it. You can go to these events.
Actually, do the people who are at the top, would they be countries that are funded?
100%. They're massive funding. So the French, the Ukraine team, the Japanese, they have about 5 different people that they're funding in each weight category to just travel the globe, and they're going to make sure they qualify a spot, and if anyone is injured, they still have the spot and they can just put in whoever they want. So they literally just globetrot all year round. They have loads of money. Yeah. But,
we see that even in Taekwondo, Poland are constantly at the top of the medal rankings because they were fully funded. I don't know. I think they're still partly funded, but they can consistently put their best team on the mats because they're funded. Whereas sometimes for us, it can be up and down because sometimes people just can't afford to pay this time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can. So the team can be very up and down.
Yeah.
On what you can bring, on the team you can bring. So it can be hit and miss to how high you get up. So that. It's tough when you're up against that, trying to compete against those on a team level. You know?
Absolutely, it is. You're definitely up against it, and it's. I think though, if sometimes I used to get really focused on that, and I'd be proper jealous. I'd be just why aren't we getting that? It's not fair. The same medal. Let's just say I would get a gold medal at an Irish Open, and let's just say Turkey for some reason managed to pull a silver medal. They're going home with 30 grand in their pocket, and I'm going home with a nice wave. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
So you can find yourself feeling a bit envious of that, but I think if you get overly focused on it, you'd just pack it all in and you wouldn't get on with it. So
you just have to get over that to some degree.
Ireland's never going to be a nation like Turkey or Azerbaijan that pay massive amounts of money for medal bonuses. No matter how good you are, you could win the Olympics 10 times, and it's just not going to be that kind of system. So you kind of have to look at the reasons you're doing it, and that's what I'm just trying to do. I'm just kind of say, just stay focused on trying to qualify, trying to get a medal at this Olympics, and that's the dream. And if I can do it, great, and if I can't, well, then at least I tried.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you make of Caradh being dropped for the Olympics after?
Oh gosh,
I thought, speak to a couple of people, I thought it'd be kept on because France are obviously a big country in karate, so I thought they might have kept it on as a trial sport, so because they would have had a good chance of potentially pulling a medal.
It was a big shock, I think, to everybody in the sport, that they just thought it was guaranteed. They thought, well, France have the games, between France and Japan, they win the most medals, and have done for years. So you would think that they would. I guess the assumption was, well, they're guaranteed Olympic medals, so they'll keep it in. I've no idea what happened behind the scenes, whether there's governance issues or what it was. That's the only thing you can think of, because it's just such a shock. I think people were stunned, but there is a campaign going on, an online media campaign that the WKF are trying to like they haven't given up completely yet, so they're still thinking there's hope, and they're trying to persuade people through just looking at the numbers that take part. So they've reached 100 million followers on social media. They have I think 10 million athletes taking part. So it doesn't make sense when you look at all those kind of parts to it, why they'd be put out. It's bizarre. So it's really disappointing. Not necessarily for me. I don't know what I'll be doing in 4 years time or 5 years time, but for the people that I train with, I mean, that's their goal. So for it to be put back out, it's just disappointing. So hopefully, even if it doesn't get in for 2024, they might get back in for 2028. Who knows? Yeah,
but then again, like, that's going to be very dependent on where that Olympics is held in as well.
Yeah.
Like, John Mackey was on the podcast, and he was kind of saying that with WACO getting IOC recognition, that they'd kind of be hoping that a country like Hungary would maybe get the Olympics, and then they might put kickboxing in as a trial sport, because that'd be a sport that they'd be good at. So it kind of can be dependent on where it's going to be held.
Absolutely, that makes a massive difference, and a lot of people seem to think the fact that Tokyo had these games is a big I guess a big factor in why karate got in the first place. But I mean, I personally don't know. I wasn't even in the sport before that, when that decision was made, but you would think there's some sort of link there. So if I think there is talks of Hungary putting in a bid for an Olympics down the line. And maybe I picked that up wrong, so that would be good for kickboxing probably.
Yeah, definitely. Was there, you were saying in kickboxing that the growth for women involved has grown. You were saying it is, what's the participation like in karate in terms of girls? I see a good.
Yeah, there's loads. There's I mean, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but you would think there's a 50-50 split, or as good as, like, I mean, 55-45. There's loads on the women's squad in Ireland. It's quite competitive. So when I came in, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like to try and get a place on the team, or to win a national title. And it is quite competitive. There is lots of people. They're not just going to hand you a national title. Sometimes in kickboxing over the years, you would get a walkover. Not all the time, but once or twice. And in some weight categories, some of maybe the heavier weight categories, there wouldn't be anyone competing, or you might only have 3 people competing for a national title. So there is good numbers there. Maybe last year there was a smaller amount, but the first year I competed, there was loads of girls. And then when you go away to international events, so the kind of ranking events that we go to, there's anywhere between 100 and 200 in your weight category. So the numbers are massive.
Yeah.
Some of the men's divisions might be slightly bigger, but not much. There's maybe about 20 or 30 extra athletes in some of the men's categories. So there seems to be loads taking part. Yeah.
So there is a big push with that whole kind of 2020 campaign, to get more women, well, not just involved, but more people out there recognised, promoted in sport, which I kind of find it's kind of ironic, because our biggest sports star is probably Conor McGregor, but the most, I think, beloved sports star is Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
Then you know who's about, I don't think there's anybody who doesn't like Katie Taylor and have a soft spot to see her achieve great things.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird though, because when you think about it, she still wouldn't get the same kind of headline of a boxing show that Anthony Joshua would get.
Yeah.
So there's probably a bit of work to be done there, even though she's probably, I mean, debatable. Is she better, or is she's every bit as good? I mean, you can't look at the quality of her ability, and some people do question the competition that's out there for women's boxing, but it's I mean, personally, I think that's just looking for reasons to knock her. I don't think that's an issue at all, but she definitely doesn't get the same, I don't know, media or money, or, well, I don't know actually what money she gets for a fight, but she doesn't get the same recognition. Personally, I felt that there is a slight difference how you're perceived as a woman in sport. More so though when I worked in sport, when you're looking for opportunities to be a manager in different sports, or to be on boards, you're not taken as seriously. You're straight away looked on differently, whether it's ever said or whether it's just unspoken. You can feel that kind of resistance to having, you shouldn't have that opinion, and definitely, for me, just having an opinion over this whole athletes being blocked. I mean, that's why I've been targeting the most, because not only have I spoken up as an athlete, I've been a female athlete speaking up, and people don't like that. They think you should know your place and you should be.
And it's nearly all men then making the decisions then, is it?
Definitely in this instance it was, and men that have been there in positions for 30 or 40 years that just can't accept that there is a new dynamic now, that not only do athletes want to say in it, but female athletes have an opinion and they're going to have to listen to them whether they like it or not. So like for me, the 2020 campaign is a good thing, but it also just shows the fact that it needs to even be there, kind of shows that there's still a bit to go, like in the whole gender balance. But at the same time I don't think it's so if you look at rugby, for instance, there's a huge difference there, like between the people that go to see the games and the money that they make, whereas in kickboxing or karate, even for karate, all the prize money is equal. Kickboxing, I don't think is the same. There's still a difference in prize money, but the fact that events are all at the same place and we all get no funding, it's kind of we're a little bit more equal that way, because as a minority sport you probably don't see the differences. Like the male athletes still obviously get every bit as little, as we're all kind of in the same boat that way. But so hopefully I don't know what the general feeling is about it, but I think it's good to see a few more kind of campaigns around women's sports and women athletes, especially where it comes to them having a voice and being able to speak their opinions a bit more. Yeah,
because just being involved in sport is it's a great thing to keep up. Like girls just tend to drop off.
Yeah,
the rate that they drop off it when they get to teenage years, it's crazy, and it's much more healthy to stay involved in sport. At any level.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so good for you. And you're probably right. I think a lot more girls do drop off. Like some of the work I do, I go into schools and kind of talk about my sport and how I got involved in it. And I think that's one of the things that was missing when I was younger, is having athletes come in and talk about how important it is to get involved in sport. But at the same time, you didn't have any female athletes that you could look up to. I was obsessed with Roy Keane. He was my favourite athlete. But I knew I could never be Roy Keane because he was a man. So at the same time, so I think that's kind of one of the things that's going to help. And I think part of that 2020 campaign is that girls are starting to see more they have all these ambassadors, which is a really good thing. Yeah, they're becoming more visible. Exactly. They're being promoted and pushed out there to the front. Yeah. Did you ever think, when you were looking to maybe switch sports, did you ever think of maybe trying MMA? Or was it? A lot of people said it to me, but it was nothing really that I'd have any interest in. I know you could probably make a better career out of it, a better living. If you're successful, you can really make a good career from it. But it's not really a sport that I know anything about. I don't think I've watched more than one fight in the last. I don't think I've ever seen a full fight of MMA. So I just didn't know enough about it to even think about it. I know a lot of people have switched over though. People have suggested it, but I never really gave it any serious consideration, and I don't know if I'd be any good at it really, to be honest. So karate was just maybe enough of a change where it was just enough similar but just enough different. Probably. It wasn't but it's something that I enjoy as well. When I looked at it, that's probably the misconception I gave myself when I looked at it first. So I went onto YouTube and I started looking at all the kind of fights, the best kind of female fighters, and I thought straight away, I can do this. This is going to be fine. And then when I went into it, it was actually really technical. So there's still a massive adjustment period, and it was kind of, in one way, it was probably a good thing that I underestimated how hard it was going to be, because I probably wouldn't have done it otherwise. But now that I'm in the middle of it, I realise there is similarities, but at the same time it's quite different. So from a contact point of view, you can't hit that hard. Did you find that being much of an adjustment, having to have control to not fully hit? People thought I was so rough when I came over first. They were like, what is her problem? She's just milling us. I didn't realise, and I tried so hard to control my techniques, but it's very difficult. You're used to hitting full contact down. That would have been one of the things that I would have been known for. I would have hit harder than most people in kickboxing. So it was a massive adjustment for me. I was dropping people with body kicks, and especially when you're trying to hit fast. When you're trying to hit with speed and still have control, that's just tough. Exactly. So Yeah, I that was a big adjustment. And I think it's kind of it's weird because the sport seems to, on the international scale, has adjusted that to actually suit me. So when I first started, the contact kind of thing was like a big issue, and now they're letting more contact go, which is to me, I would just wish they would allow it be full contact, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's not the sport. They can't make that change. But they're allowing more contact, which is a really good thing for me. And then they've changed the length of time of the rounds as well, which suits me better because I tend to be a bit of a slow kind of starter.
And what is it now? How
So
does that work?
it's a 3-minute round, just 1 3-minute. But when I started, it was only 2 minutes. So the men's had 3 minutes and the women's had 2 minutes. And of course, I was giving out about that as well. Why are we? Yeah. So it was for equality, I guess, that they changed it.
Yeah.
Which is,
I never understand things like that. Like even in women's boxing, it's like a title fight is 10 2-minute rounds. So why can't you have 12 3-minute rounds just like the men?
Okay, so there's a difference there as
why
well.
not make it the same?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, we wouldn't be able for that extra,
Yeah, but I think,
extra time.
But I think it, like even watching when Katie Taylor fights, is that she's just starting to get you one hurt and could get the stoppage, and then the round is over. It's like I think that extra minute would make much more of a difference, and you'd see much more finishes as opposed to decisions. But like that, I think they just decide that.
Yeah,
because it's women, sure.
I don't. Yeah, exactly, and maybe that was the historical reason behind it. Is that they wouldn't be able. They're only women. They're not going to be able for that, which is like it boils my blood. And I think now maybe that attitude is changing, but they just haven't updated their kind of rules and their whole system to reflect that. I don't know. It just seems bizarre. Now maybe there's other reasons behind it. But it's even the same with I don't know, in the amateur boxing, if they've taken away the head guards for I think the women now
the women still have to wear the headgear.
I don't understand the difference. If it's safe for men, surely it should be safe for women, or maybe
I don't
think understand that.
I could be wrong, but I think it's two different associations or federations that make those decisions. So the men's federation decided to take it out, and the women's decided to keep it in. I think
okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay,
but
okay.
But again, I don't see why.
Yeah.
Why not just keep it the same?
Yeah,
but they fight in amateur, then they fight different rounds as well. I think it's 4-2s, or is it 3-3s in the men's, 4-2s in the women's?
I think they might have. Yeah, they definitely did have different rounds. I'm not sure if they've switched that in the last while. I haven't actually watched any of the boxing for a while, but I don't get that. I really don't. I mean, if they're saying that boxing is necessary for or head guards are necessary for protection for women, then it should be the same for men. Or if they're not needed, then why are they? It doesn't make sense.
So just before we finish up, when you come back from the injury, what's the next ranking tournament you're looking at? Or have you looked at one yet?
Yeah, I've planned to go to Canada now at the end of June, so that gives me about 9 weeks to kind of get over this and get some rehab done, and then get back training. So hopefully that'll work out. So I'll be looking at going over there for maybe 4 or 5 days, and then June, and then after that it'll be September before the next ones kick off. And what level of ranking tournament is that? So that's the Series A, so it's the kind of, it's like a ranking factor 3, so it's still, it still gives me a good opportunity to kind of get into the top 100, and then I'll get into the Premier Leagues hopefully come September. That's the plan. Nice. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks a million for coming on the show. Thanks a million for having me in. Where could people find you social media wise, if you want? I'm on Twitter the most. Caradh Donovan is my username pretty much on all of them, but every so often I'll dabble with Instagram and Facebook as well. So I'm on all those. Yeah. Very good. And remember to like, share and subscribe to the podcast. And again, you can find it at the Black Belter _ on Instagram, and just the Black Belter on Facebook. So thanks.